So share with us some ways organizations can improve the quality of their meetings and help foster better professional relationships that I guess could seem a bit unorthodox or uncomfortable, which you talk about in your book, and share a case study, especially in this day of Me Too. This advice was kind of interesting that you talk about it making people feel more at ease.
So there's a couple of questions in that question. So let me start with the first one, which is, in today's society, we have so much fear and discomfort around the unknown. And so surprisingly, or at least people were surprised to find, that I put in a section on how to be a good host, how to run a good meeting and welcome people in under the section called Fight Fear. And that's because we want to put people at ease. So when you're starting a meeting, you want to make sure everybody comes in, they know who's in the room, introduce everybody, make sure everybody speaks at the very beginning of a meeting. Because once you've heard your own voice and you've entered the conversation, even just briefly, it enables you to actually relax into the conversation. I suggest that people introduce one another in a way that actually opens conversation and allows the audience to connect to why people are in that meeting and what they can contribute. So you basically have a reputation to live up to when you're sitting in that meeting. I also suggest that people leave enough time to be able to have unstructured conversation and equally know that when it's time to stop the formal conversation, let the people leave that need to leave, and then be able to relax into some extra time that you didn't know you had. So those are some of kind of the standard meeting hygiene things that I would suggest. Some of the less conventional ones, and you mentioned the Me Too, is I have a section on touch. And again, that was controversial. How could I, in this day and age, say touch? It's appropriate touch. So let's take out the highlighter and appropriate. And appropriate in a business setting would be a light tap between your shoulder and your elbow, just to say, hi, how you doing? Right, or great job. Just a quick, light touch is a way of making a connection to somebody. It's not overstepping the boundary. It's not going to be confused with a hug or picking someone up or kind of giving them a high five.
Shoulder rubs or things like that.
Yeah. This is light. The research is astounding. The amount of compliance that people get just if you do a quick touch, but quick, light, and appropriate. And by the way, there are going to be people in your organization who really are going to bristle. Somebody bristles. You don't do it again.
I know.
Right? But there are many of folks who would just feel like, good to see you. It's a form of a handshake that's just a little light touch. I have another unconventional one for you if you want.
Let's hear it.
Be silent together. So you asked for a case study.
Yeah, two uncomfortable things, the touch and the silence.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's starting to get into that area of kind of use your senses wisely, right? Like work can be sensual in a very appropriate way. Seeing, hearing, eating, touching, being quiet together. So one of the ways that I have dealt with meetings that are very conflictual is to ask people when they come in to start with a few minutes of silence. So think about it. You come into a meeting that you know is going to be a complicated one, and people are thinking about the last meeting they were in. They're gearing up for a fight. They're reading their email. They're wondering why that guy defined business casual that way, and why are those two people sitting together? And they're doing everything other than actually focusing on the task at hand. So I have kind of destabilized the tension, if you will, by asking people to put all of their distractions down, phones, pads, paper, put their hands in their lap, their feet on the ground, and when I ask people to just be silent together. And in the first few minutes, everyone's giggling, they're looking around. I then say, it's okay if you want to close your eyes and let the thoughts that you came in with float away and start to think about and center yourself on your intention. What do you want to get out of this meeting? It makes the meetings that much more efficient because people become much more focused on their end goal. And actually by the end of, say, 4 minutes of silence, which can seem like an eternity, people are starting to synchronize their breathing as well. They're starting to feel the people around them. So then when you open the meeting, you suddenly are connected as a more unified organism. You've calmed down, you know the point that you're driving to, and you've reduced some of the anxiety around it. And it ends up being much more efficient than people initially think when I say, let's take 5 minutes and be quiet together. They look and they go, last job for you, Katzman.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's start the meeting.
Yeah.
No.
Is she done yet? Yeah.